There's a mystique to knife making. You know, if you didn't know that heat treating steel means heating it up to a critical point where the crystal structure enlarges enough for the carbon atoms to slip inside, and then when you quench it, it shrinks down and traps those carbon atoms. If you don't know that, you know, why your heat treating process does what it does, it's very easy to see someone believing that it's magic. My name is Nathan Zimmerman. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm a full-time bladesmith and professional knife sharpener. It's kind of a long road that led me there. My father's an electrical engineer and he taught me how to work with my hands from a young age. It was kind of just a lifelong lesson in learning to do things yourself, teaching yourself the right way to do them, you know, not having to rely on outside sources to get done what you need to get done. If we had the tools to do it, why not just learn how to do it ourselves? And that's just kind of a value that was instilled on me throughout my life. The main thing that I learned from my father is to take responsibility for your actions or your non-actions, to take responsibility for what needs to be done. You know, say I have a knife project I need to finish by a specific date. There's nobody else responsible for it other than me. That's kind of been one of the most important things I learned from my relationship with my father. While I was in college, I needed a job, obviously, so I found a job through Craigslist that said knife sharpener wanted. So I applied for a company called the Sharp Brothers and began working as a professional knife sharpener. Down the road, a year or so, I decided to try making my first knife. I'm someone who likes to think through processes a lot of times before I do them. I'm really good at visualizing 3D shapes in my head. That's something I've always been good at. And I'm good at, you know, thinking through a process before doing it. You start with a square block of steel, and in the end, you can make an elegant shape. You can make something brutal looking. That's where you can really kind of let your creativity flow. But you still have to follow a strict set of processes to make the knife turn out and function properly. You need to heat treat it properly. You need to treat the steel properly throughout the whole process. You need to make sure it doesn't get too hot. You make sure you don't forge it too cold. But at the same time, you have to worry about the proportion and the lines and the shape. My feelings on aesthetics as far as knife making goes, as far as all craft goes, in my brain how I think about it is there's a right and a wrong way that things need to look. Where knife making kind of forges a join between form and function is being able to have something that functions properly and also looks right. You know, I say right as in proportional, balanced, you know, an interesting shape that maybe your eye moves along. There's always a place where you can strike a balance between form and function. I don't think one has to be sacrificed for the other in 99% of circumstances. Sometimes the work has a very, very specific purpose, but I think it can still have an aesthetic quality to it, no matter what that is. Form also follows process. You know, I only have the tools that I have available to me to make what I need to make, and I have to make them work in the way that I need them to work. It's oftentimes a product of the task that the piece needs to perform once it's finished, combined with the tools I have available to create the piece. A lot of the curves and shapes on my knives are a result of the size and shape of contact wheels I have for my belt grinder, for example. Say I need to make a slicing knife that informs the shape that it's going to be, and then that shape is more informed by the process that I have to follow. It is very interesting to think of obstacles as opportunities. They often help shape the way that your process works. You know, say I only have a 10-inch wheel available to me, then I either need to learn to make a different size curve using that wheel, or just accept that that's the size shape that I'm going to use. You know, I've learned to make a lot of my own tools, which is one way I've gotten around that obstacle. If I need a specific size punch or drift, or you know, even a fixture to hold a blade while I dome a pin on it, learning how to make it myself has been invaluable. There's a very large community of knife makers, and knife makers are very free about sharing their knowledge in general. Talking with other makers, you know, online, watching videos, working in person at hammer-ins and at the New England School of Metalwork, going to people's shops and learning from them in person has been absolutely invaluable. What interests me most about the knife making process is the forging. That's my favorite part of it. I like heating a piece of steel up. I like shaping it with a hammer. I like sweating. I like, you know, getting dirty. It's the cliche that everybody says when you work for yourself, you're going to be working long hours, and it's true and it's not, because you'll be at your shop say 10 hours a day, normal work day. And then you go home and you spend 2 hours answering emails and 2 hours designing knives and then 2 hours thinking about designing knives. And so you end up working, 16-hour days without realizing it. When you're running the business, making the product, there's endless things that go into the process that you can't bill, that aren't necessarily billable time. If you're talking about it financially, there's answering emails, talking to customers, making your website, taking pictures, posting those pictures. The thing that's on my mind all the time is making knives, and I have to force myself to do the other aspects of making knives, which everybody sees promotional videos, they see your YouTube content where you're swinging a hammer all day and you're sweating and throwing sparks, and they don't see you poring over receipts at night, and they don't see you stressing out over paying your rent. They don't see all the non-glamorous parts of knife making. The image we put out in the world of knife makers, it's not all, what do they say? It's not all lightning and high fives, or it's not all smiles and high fives. But there is also you get to hang out and swing a hammer. You get to say that you make knives for a living, which is pretty cool. It feels cool to say. Yeah, knife making has opened a whole world of new opportunities. I've met countless people that I wouldn't have known before this. I've gotten to travel to new parts of the world. Traveling out to Maine and the New England School of Metalwork was very formative, and a very formative experience in who I am as a person and a knife maker. I got to work alongside some of the best knife makers and instructors in the nation. Yeah, I have a couple of heroes: Salem Straub, Don Nguyen, Nick Rossi, Jeff Fader. These are all people who make culinary knives, which is what I focus on. These are people who are not afraid to step out of the box and make their own interesting designs, interesting knives. Yeah, Jeff Fader is really inspiring from a business perspective. He's been able to take his art and make it into a wildly successful business and media empire. I mean, the man is legendary in the knife making world. Don Nguyen and Salem Straub are artists in the true sense of the word. They plan a piece, they execute it. Their forms are always beautiful. They're always something innovative. Nick Rossi especially has a lot of really severe opinions about knife making, work ethics, how one should conduct themselves. One of the best things that Nick Rossi ever said to me, he said, motivation's bullshit, you need discipline. That just taught me a great deal about life and knife making in general. I think myself and a lot of people my age have become dissatisfied with this mediocrity that has permeated itself through all of our culture. A desire is growing within my generation to see quality come back into every aspect of our life. We want good local music, we want good locally made products, we want to be in control of the things we use every day, the media we consume. We want to be in control of our lives, which kind of ties into working for ourselves. I know so many people who are foregoing their 9-to-5 jobs and starting out on their own with no hope of a steady income, but we care more about self-determination than a big paycheck. And I think that's kind of an ideal that's starting to have a resurgence in our society and in Milwaukee especially. I just couldn't see myself doing anything else. Being my own man, being self-sufficient is just kind of everything to me. Yeah, no, I believe in self-determination. I believe in doing what you want. I believe in freedom. And I think knife making is one of the ultimate expressions of that, because a knife can be shaped like anything. It can have any function. It can be a tool. It can be a scalpel to save someone's life. It can be a sword to kill someone. I think self-determination is something a lot of people have lost these days, and it's a very important ideal to me. And I think knife making can be the ultimate expression of that.